I am opening the third panel of our today's forum. Our panel is entitled Political Changes Needed for the Survival and Development of Languages. I would say languages is an accurate word here because we all understand we are talking about peoples and their languages. So my name is Pavel. I will moderate. And let me introduce our guest. And first of all, let me tell you that we have our special secret guest who was not announced in the program via some security reasons. So we have Syreś Boläeń, who is, first of all, a Ukrainian public figure and a poet and translator. And of course, he is the co-founder of the Free Idel Ural movement, a leader of the Erzya national movement. So Syreś is leader of Erzya people. And he was elected as Inyazor of Erzya people. He is our special guest today, and after I introduce everyone else at our panel, and then I believe all the panelists are really extremely interesting and distinguished people. So to the right to me is Juku-Kalle Raid.
Almost correct.
Yeah, you should forgive Juku. You should forgive me. I'm very ignorant in pronouncing names. I'm sorry. So Juku-Kalle is journalist, member of Estonian Parliament, Riigikogu, am I correct? Representing Tallinn city districts of Mustamäe and Nõmme in the Parliament. And the committees for security, authority, surveillance, and foreign affairs.
Yeah.
Next to Juku is Jukka.
Juku, then Jukka.
Jukka.
What will happen with the third person?
Jukka Mallinen or Mallinen?
Mallinen.
Mallinen.
In our languages, this accent is always on the first. Mallinen.
Remember this. So, Jukka is the Finnish journalist and translator and the former chairman of the Finnish PEN committee, which is the Finnish branch of the World Association of Writers. And of course, a great specialist in Finno-Ugric and even Russian things and translator. Next to Jukka is Mitia Laius, my good friend originally from St. Petersburg, but he is Estonian, so he is Russian-Estonian poet and psychotherapist who lives in Tallinn now. And we also have online Sampsa Holopainen. Holopainen. Terribly sorry, Sampsa. He is an Academy Research Fellow at the University of Helsinki and a specialist in historical linguistics of the Finno-Ugric languages at the University of Tartu. Oh, sorry, Tartu. So, again, forgive me for mispronunciations, and I'm, as I said, I'm an outsider, but I'm glad to moderate this panel, and let me give floor, first of all, to our distinguished guest from Ukraine, Syreś, please. And Syreś will be presenting in Russian.
Хорошо. Monjulis pokšmėlėm, jau tam stagu mėlytis Erzjaks. Marek Malumatne, koda gaiги, мазы, Эрзян келес. У меня было большое желание сказать что-то на эрзянском языке, чтобы вы послушали, как звучит эрзянский язык. Это не часто приходится услышать. Я хотел говорить на эрзянском, и мы напечатали вот это на английском все. Но подумали, и будет оптимальнее, если я буду говорить на русском, больше людей поймет. А вот напечатано на английском я сейчас раздам. Спасибо. Здравствуйте, друзья. Я Боläeń Syreś, меня уже представили. Я Inyazor, или главный старейшина народа Эрзя, и президент Лиги свободных наций. И чувства меня переполняют такие счастье, удовлетворение, потому что много лет эрзянская делегация пыталась попасть на конгресс финно-угорских народов, вот тот, который всемирный, который, наверное, уже или в коме, или не знаю, где он. Но нас не пускали туда и нам не давали там слова. Так было в 2010 году, в 2013, 2016, 2019. И вот теперь я присутствую, счастлив присутствовать на открытом форуме финно-угорских народов. Почему-то у меня такое чувство, я думаю, что мы должны его поддержать и сделать все, чтобы этот форум вырос вот до всемирного открытого форума финно-угорских народов, потому что свято место пусто не бывает, и это нам очень нужно. Все мы сегодня приехали сюда по своей воле, не по спискам, которые утверждались в Москве когда-то. Поэтому я думаю, что каждый из вас, каждый из нас понимает, какие угрозы стоят сегодня перед нашим финно-угорским миром, перед нашими финно-угорскими народами. Это не просто какие-то проблемы или трудности, которые можно переждать. Речь идет об экзистенциальных угрозах, об экзистенциальной угрозе, об экзистенциальных вызовах. Поэтому откуда это взялось? Это не просто результат многолетней и даже многовековой политики России по отношению к нам. Это также следствие и наших собственных ошибок финно-угорских народов. Это следствие неверного целеизбирания нашими народами. О том, что делать, мы давно и много говорили как со старейшинами, так и в Лиге свободных наций. И первое, к чему мы бы хотели призвать, нам нужно отбросить страх перед политизацией. Нам много лет и много веков говорили, не надо заниматься политикой. Есть правительство, есть государство, они там все сделают, а твое дело маленькое, вот жевать там и слушаться. Да? И нас убедили, к сожалению, большинство из нас убедили, и я даже сегодня слышу о том, что вот эта политика – это не то, что нам нужно. Это отбрасывает нас на обочину цивилизационного процесса. Мы живем, я имею в виду люди, народа, которые живут в России, мы живем в других условиях, не так, как в Финляндии или в Эстонии, где я слушаю, но я понимаю, что миноритарное сообщество, малые народы Эстонии, Финляндии могут сконцентрироваться, сосредоточиться на защите, на спасении своих языков, не опасаясь, что им за это что-то будет. Совсем другие реалии в Российской Федерации. Мы живем в тоталитарном государстве, в условиях режима практически. В государстве, где все пропитано политикой. Абсолютно все. От детского садика до студенческого реферата. От какой-то детской мечты о чем-то политизированной до, я не знаю, до дома для престарелых, до религии, в конце концов. И эти люди говорят нам, что нет, не надо заниматься политикой. Даже разговоры о фольклоре, разговоры о каких-то языковых гнездах называются диссидентской политической деятельностью. Поэтому без политики у нас никак не получится. Сама эволюция, развитие исторического процесса ставит перед нами выбор. Или мы политизируемся, или мы исчезаем. И здесь второе замечание. Нас пытается уничтожить система. С системой можно бороться только системно. Поэтому мы не можем ничего сделать вот таким образом, рассказывая, как нам все плохо. Мы должны организовываться, и первый шаг, я думаю, это сегодня уже сделан, потому что мы собрались здесь сами, нас никто не принуждал. Это касается то, что касается наших народов. То, что касается финно-угров, у которых есть своя государственность. Нам следует избавиться от комплекса посредничества российского государства как необходимого условия для сотрудничества с финно-угорскими народами. И многие годы именно вот такой подход был и у Хельсинки, у Будапешта, у Таллина. Все делалось через Москву. И сегодня мы ощущаем вот последствия вот этого всего подхода. Есть два выхода из этой ситуации. Первый выход – это ничего не делать. Вот давайте ничего не делать. Мы будем собираться раз в 3 года или раз в 5 лет, вот так собираться, рассказывать, как у нас плохо, фиксировать, как это плохо. Наши эстонские и финские друзья помогут нам сделать красивые видео, красивое аудио. Мы зафиксируем остатки нашей культуры, остатки, то, что осталось от наших языков. Лет через 30 мы сделаем грандиозные фильмы, целый цикл. Последний Удмурт, последний Эрзя, последний Коми. Это будет пользоваться популярностью. Все супер, да? Ну, вот это вот результат вот той политики, которая велась во многом, и результат работы, результат тех сценариев и программ, которые использовал Всемирный конгресс финно-угорских народов. Есть эрзянская поэтесса Алина Подгорнова. И она жива, она молода, здорова, все хорошо. Но я уже могу сказать, что это великая поэтесса. И у нее есть такие строчки. «Мон вишка нармонь, раскень вишка пельске. Пельвисе эрям смоня расми лесь, зярдо тандавтни, музейн лазпанкске. Косо сюрмадозе, мерзятня, ульнесть». Никто не понял, правда? Так вот, сегодня в Мордовии дети 10-15 лет тоже не понимают. А она сказала: «Я часть народа, птичка-невеличка, а жить иначе полсилы мне уже нельзя, когда грозит музейная табличка с десятком слов про вымерших эрзян». Я был в музее, в Тарту, в Национальном музее. Великолепный музей, великолепное впечатление, великолепная экспозиция. Но они рассказывают о нас, как будто нас уже нет. Как будто мы уже в прошлом. Лапти, одежды, темный лес. То есть нас сегодня уже нет для них. Но есть второй путь. Можно не ждать. Есть второй путь, который нам ничего не обещает и ничего не гарантирует. Но он дает нам шанс выжить. Он дает нам шанс побороться за свою жизнь, за свое будущее. Он дает нам шанс остаться в этом списке народов мировых. Но этот путь требует смелости и решительности. И не только от народов, которые живут сейчас оккупированы Россией, но и от эстонцев и финнов. Потому что это реалии. Мы не можем справиться сейчас без вас. Я не буду говорить про Коми, Мари, я скажу про эрзян. Мы сейчас настолько в глубоком кризисе, что выкарабкаться оттуда своими силами в одиночестве это невозможно. Поэтому мы объединяемся в Лигу свободных наций и другие организации. И здесь речь, наверное, не о солидарности, о необходимости поддержки финно-угорских народов. Дело в том, что Россия видит угрозу в сохранении нашей идентичности. И поэтому ее цель – нас уничтожить. И когда я слышу от кого-то, что можно, может быть, поработать с Россией, возлагают на нее надежды, что она как-то нам поможет, это не смешно, это не грустно, это подло и цинично. Простите меня, пожалуйста. Россия не может быть нашим союзником. Россия – наш враг. И пока мы эту правду себе не скажем, мы никуда не будем двигаться, будем так плакать год из года, и все. Союзником нам может только государство какого-то финно-угорского народа, которое ощущает ценность нас, как эрзян, как одного из финно-угорских народов. Поэтому нам жизненно необходима поддержка финно-угров. И поэтому мы, присутствующие в зале, имеется в виду, должны донести до элит Финляндии, Эстонии, до общества, что поддержка наших народов – это не вопрос снисходительности или жалости к бедным. Это вопрос национальной безопасности самих государств. Это ответ на вызовы, с которыми столкнутся эти государства совсем скоро. И многие из государств соседних уже столкнулись. Чем более Россия будет централизована, тем более сильной будет угроза, тем более агрессивной она будет. И наоборот, чем ближе мы подойдем к реализации нашего права на самоопределение, тем слабее будет Россия, тем сложнее будет вовлекать наши народы порабощенные в новые войны и использовать наш ресурс. На сегодня в Мордовии самый меньший процент людей, которые воюют против Украины. Сегодня имеется только одна эрзянская национальная организация. Я не знаю таких ни у Коми, ни у Мари. Так вот, меньше всего народу призывается из Мордовии. Когда мы сделали ролик в 2022 году, они хотели сделать 3 батальона. Вспомнили Аралар, то есть Аралай, вспомнили наши эрзянские слова. Они хотели сделать 3 батальона. Мы сделали ролик. Население Мордовии 760 тысяч примерно человек. Ролик посмотрело там 5,5-6 миллионов человек. Они не создали батальонов, они роту собрали одну, 200 человек. То есть это реально работает, но мы этого пока не делаем. Теперь с чего начать? Начать нужно с поддержки родственных народов со стороны Эстонии и Финляндии. И речь не как о неправительственных организациях, об общественных организациях, так и государственных структурах. Тут можно сосредоточиться на проектах, которые укрепляют, сохраняют национальную идентичность наших народов, финно-угорских народов. Если мы потеряем вот это вот поколение, которое родилось после 2000 года, у нас просто не будет шансов восстановить свои народы. Это горькая правда. Что нам сегодня необходимо? Необходимо мобильное приложение, которое могло бы обучать молодежь и студентов нашим языкам. Нужен репетитор и собеседник на основе искусственного интеллекта. То есть это реальный проект. И начинать нужно с теми народами, которые готовы в него включиться в качестве консультантов, учителей, носителей языка. Но мы это делаем уже. Но нам не хватает опыта, нам не хватает людей, нам не хватает доступа к технологиям. Это все есть у эстонцев и финнов. Второе направление – это работа внутри Эстонии и Финляндии. Нам нужны амбассадоры, послы, которые помогут рассказать эстонцам и финнам о наших народах, о нашем значении для финно-угорского мира. Самое главное, нам нужно объяснить, что окончательная ассимиляция всех покоренных Москвой народов, превращение их в русских, создаст новую политическую реальность. Сейчас уже страшно смотреть на это общество. Но в случае, когда все абсолютно станут русскими, уровень ксенофобии и милитаризма в России возрастет до необозримых сегодня масштабов. И здесь могут быть разные инструменты. Вы это можете делать. Это уличные какие-то акции, это университетские дискуссии, это публикации в средствах массовой информации. Вы лучше знаете, как ваши люди могут вас услышать. В 2022 году мы провели съезд в Отепе. Я имею в виду Эрзянское национальное движение. А сегодня оно уже не просто активное, самое активное, оно сегодня, я уже говорил, единственное среди финно-угорских народов. И вот это единственное движение инициировало и является соучредителем Лиги свободных наций. В ней сейчас собрано 1,5 десятка различных национальных и региональных организаций, около 50 участников. Мы тоже провели свой съезд в 2024 году и тоже в Отепе. Мы уже говорим, что Отепе – это просто центр какой-то революционного национального движения. И я хотел бы сегодня поблагодарить наших эстонских друзей за помощь. И отдельная благодарность Оливеру Лоде за помощь. И большая благодарность меня просили передать нашей красавице Брит, потому что когда смотрели люди, как она несла эрзянское знамя по набережной Нарвы, 2 старейшин сказали, что они плакали. Это очень важно. Но в то же время нашлись люди, которые назвали нас маргиналами. Я не буду все приводить. Назвались маргиналами. Там еще были экзотерические нацисты, то есть это трудно представить себе. Бурят, якут, Эрзя и башкорт – нацисты. Вот это нормально. Вот. На сегодня, прошел год с небольшим, на сегодня канал Лиги в Ютубе насчитывает 261 тысячу подписчиков. Каждый день наши видео просматривают более 2 миллионов человек. И более половины этих людей из России. Кто говорит, что с Россией нельзя работать и что нельзя работать с нашими народами. Кстати, на канале вот тех людей, которые нас назвали маргиналами, у них 369 подписчиков, если что. То есть мы работаем, мы знаем, что делать, и мы ждем ваших идей, предложений, мы готовы сотрудничать. И первое, с чего бы я вот сейчас просто пользуясь присутствием уважаемого депутата Riigikogu, я бы попросил вас в своих республиках поработать с депутатами. Нам остро необходима какая-то понятная стратегия со стороны Эстонии и Финляндии. Ну не хотите вы с нами работать? Скажите, мы не хотим с вами работать, мы будем знать, мы будем обращаться к другим странам, мы найдем союзников. Если хотите, можно создать временную какую-то комиссию специальную, которая должна выработать стратегию государства по отношению к происходящему, по отношению к нашим народам. Мы кто для вас? И какое будет наше будущее? Потому что если нет стратегии, то не может быть государства. То есть не может быть попутный ветер, если ты не знаешь, куда тебе плыть. Мы должны думать о том, какими мы будем через 10-15 лет. И это зависит от здесь присутствующих и, безусловно, от эстонцев и финнов. Еще раз хочу поблагодарить за гостеприимство и за то, что пригласили высказать свое мнение. Я говорю это по поручению Совета старейшин и Президиума Лиги. Я думаю, все у нас будет хорошо, но мы должны действовать. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Syreś, and thank you for your ability. Thank you for coming here and joining us. I know it was not an easy trip for you from Ukraine. Okay, I think it would be logical now to give floor to Juku-Kalle, to you, because I think a good part and the good part of the final part of what Syreś just said was a message to Estonia and to Estonian government. So I think we are all interested in the current position. I'm pretty sure that could be different positions on different sides of the parliament, but please tell us what you think.
Thank you. First of all, hello to everyone from Estonian Parliament's Finno-Ugric Nation Support Group. I'm head of that. And as in Estonian Parliament there are 101 members, then the situation, well, who are acquainted with the Finno-Ugric problems is not, the number is not so sad, because in Finno-Ugric support group we have 17 members of Estonian Parliament. It means that we still cooperate. For example, in Estonia we have a non-governmentalist Finno-Ugrian office in Tallinn. But the main problem, if we start to solve the issues, is the problem that I understand you quite very much, but the problem is that not every representatives of small Finno-Ugric nations, are they from Mari or Komi or Udmurt or whatsoever, are not talking the same way. And it means the main problem, and it's not funny, it's lack of information. What's really going on, for example, in Yoshkar-Ola or Sitavkar or wherever. Because, of course, these people always put themselves, who talk with like Estonians or Finns or even Hungarians, put themselves in great danger. So it's very hard to sort out which words are true, which words are not. And first of all, I am here to listen to you, to all of you, because to take these issues and these stories and these problems to Estonian Parliament, and of course to Estonian Parliament's Finno-Ugric support group. Actually, this support group was established, I think, 25 years ago, and has been much more effective than it is right now. And this is because it's almost impossible to get honest contact with people small Finno-Ugric nations inside Russia. And I even don't know how to solve that problem, but everything, as you know, begins with information, with knowing the truth, not only the gossips or something like that. And the situation actually remains, I just did some remarks, remains me situation about 100, actually 90 years ago, when the first Finno-Ugrian educational and cultural congresses were held, for example, 1931 in Helsinki, and there were, hardly, it's let's say 3 nations participating: Hungary, Estonia, and Finland. Okay, it was held enormously. There were, I don't know, 400 Hungarians. They came with their own train, 2 boats of Estonians, some Livonians actually, as well from Latvia. But nothing, we knew absolutely, they knew absolutely nothing what's going on, for example, inside Russia, because this situation remains today's situation because NKVD nowadays, and it was the organization what's now FSB, as we all know. They thought up a stupid theory. What they are repeating right now, it's kind of a theory that Finno-Ugrian small nations would like to establish kind of Finno-Ugrian nations confederations to separate from the Soviet Russia. And we don't even know, did they want to separate from Soviet Russia? And nowadays the information is, it's absolutely very, very difficult to orientate. What do they want, and what are the main dangers, and actually, what should we do? This is why I had an idea before we talked outside, and I had a cigarette, that maybe one of the solutions would be that in Estonian parliament we can organize it freely, even this autumn, no problem. In parliament's conference hall, make a bigger gathering, video gathering that would be represented in Postimees, Estonian biggest newspaper, television. It then goes to archive, when maybe everyone really can point out the main problems we are facing at. Maybe we should just start from sharing information if we have some. So, but waiting for the panel, yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Juku-Kalle, and it's a good point you raised. So we are looking forward to think about the details of this. Okay, let me now switch to Finland, and I'm happy to give floor to Jukka Mallinen. Mallinen, and I'm learning. What is the perspective of Finland? And not necessarily, I'm sure you're not to speak on behalf of the Finnish government, but speak on behalf the elites, the culture elites of Finland. I'm sure you can do that, please.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry to say that I see that in Estonia the awareness about this Finno-Ugrian connection is much higher than in Finland.
I don't even know, is there existing in Eduskunta Finno-Ugrian support group? Once it had, but yes. I think it's...
it exists, but it's not very active. But there were some representatives of parliament, for example, Satu Hassi, even Anni Sinnemäki, who have been taking part in this Finno-Ugrian activities. So I understand there is historical reasons that Estonians are aware there was this Soviet occupation. it was important for Estonia. Finland was we had other problems, and even we don't in Soviet time we don't have connections. For example, some researcher said me that it was in 80s when people were studying Finnish-Ugrian languages. They knew that there exists Mordvir or Mari language, but I think that you could meet somebody. It was out of sight. So historical, it's different. But of course, in Finland we have also information about situation and information about World Congresses and Writers' Congresses, and also about situation Finno-Ugrians. They get to mass media and so on. So we are coming after Estonia. And if something very crucial and big happens, we understand Finns. We understand the context of Russia, as we joined to NATO, for example. So if
at last,
yeah, the best moment anyway. Yeah. So if something very crucial and fatal happens, it's not only in the genetics of Estonians, it's also in the genetics of Finns after the Winter War, for example. So we are coming after you. I understand that situation with our brother nations. It's difficulty in Russian. I just could sign up under everything Syreś said today. Russia today, it's going straight on the line of North Korea. And I don't know if there is any national minorities in North Korea, but if there are, I don't think the situation is good. So I understand that the Finnish-Ugric nation in Russia today they live a very fatal time. And the Russian state, it sees its main task as written in document. Its main task is protecting the Russian cultural dominant, the bearers of which are all the peoples of the Russian Federation. That means that integration, making people Russian, that's the priority of Russian state. And of course, that brings us the marginalization of for example, for Finno-Ugrian minority cultural languages. They speak in Ministry of Culture in Moscow. They speak about ethnocultures. And most interesting for them in this ethnoculture is ethnotourism. But this means that cities as any modern one, as contemporary citizen, he is about Russian, and his national culture, it's just a tourist show in reservation. I see two problems two main problems within our nations now in Russia. The first is the vague identity of our nations, and second is of course the imperialistic and colonialistic character of the Russian state. When I look, for example, for the Sami nations, in Scandinavia, how actively all the everyone, all the nation is pushing on state for rights of language and so on. I'm sorry, I don't see that kind of all nation activities in among within our Russian brother nations. They are activists. We heard about them also today. Their work it is heroic and it is dangerous. But it seems to me that most of the nation they just admitted to the more and more deep marginalization of their mother tongue. And of course, this comes within many aspects about the Soviet time. The Soviet era, its practices and this paternalistic dependence on Moscow poisoned the institutions of Finno-Ugrian peoples. The truly autonomous civil society organizations that emerged in the 90s have failed to develop, and Moscow has limited them as best as they can. So, as respected Inyazor here said, we need the activities of every head of the nation. The second point is, of course, the character of Russian state, imperialism and colonialization. This colonialization went on about 1,000 year. And the idea is absorbed by force all non-Russians to Russians Orthodox imperialists and so on. And if you speak about the political change in Russia today among the Finnish-Ugrian people, well, that's really some question. But I think that Russia, the only historical perspective for Russia to save the minority nations is the European the way of development. Russia must stop this imperialistic and militaristic way of development and move over to European values, the values respecting minorities, minority cultures, and so on. And essential part of this European way of Russia is that Russia recognizes the value of minority nationalities. And a dramatical change of direction from authoritarianism to liberal democracy, democratic values is needed. And of course, it is important not only for the rise of minority nationalities, but I think it also of vital importance for the survival of Russia itself. If Russia goes on this pseudical militaristic way, it will bring to the split of the Russia. And of course, I must say something about this very actual problem in our Finnish Ugrian movement. Finno-Ugric actors and organizations have mostly caused great disappointment by supporting this brutal war of Russia against Ukraine. For me, it is impossible to understand how famous actors can support this aggressive genocide of Ukrainian nation. So, to the end, Russia should conduct a moral accounting on its colonial and totalitarian past, and also about this current war fever. Without it, Russia will have no normal development or future.
Thank you, Jukka. I believe we are running a little bit out of time. At least I predicted that we have two more presentations from Sampsa and from Mitia. So I would ask Sampsa to get prepared but give the option of few words to Juku-Kalle, who wants to just
very short remark. Yes, I don't want to waste your time, but well, this story you told us that Russia must stop imperial thinking. We have heard it 35 years. They won't. It's absolutely true. They won't. The best solution, of course, is Russia to fall in, I don't know, small pieces to small states. Well, it's not at our hands, and I don't believe it. I'm not such kind of optimist. But the main problem is if people from small Finno-Ugric nations living in Russia, if they are active, well, Russia's style is you sing and dance, but shut up. And that's all. And if someone is brave, they got beaten, they've got fired, they've got suppressed, they have got thousands of problems, and they don't talk because of that. And it's very hard, absolutely very hard, to build up something on absolute silence. I don't know who knows what we should do. I really don't know. Thanks.
Thank you. And yeah, we should think much, more about what to do. And now let me give floor to Sampsa. Do you hear us? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I do hear you.
We hear
well.
you. So I'm really curious because now we have like younger voices, you and then Mitia. So what is your perspective on these great issues we are facing? I mean, Finno-Ugric people are facing.
Yes, thank you, and thank you the previous presenters, especially to Inyazor for highlighting those problems. Well, so I basically reacted to the points that have already been said from my perspective as a researcher, and so with a background in academia, and also through my background as a Finno-Ugric activist as well. So I think I agree with everything that Syreś Boläeń said, that this way of like folklorization is obviously not the right way, and I think that everybody understands that, and in retrospect, it is very difficult to understand how this whole sort of the official, I can say the whole Finno-Ugric movement, obviously, but this official part, so those world congresses, that kind of work that was supported by the Finnish and Estonian states, it was really concentrating on those more or less trivial issues. There were people, I don't want to say that folklore is not important, obviously, and folk dances and stuff, but it was like really heavily concentrated on more trivial issues, that people were dancing in folk dresses, and then real problems could not be discussed in events like the Finno-Ugric World Congress. So in speaking from today's perspective, it seems really absurd, but it's and I don't want to sort of how would I say it? I don't want to say that kind of viewpoint was acceptable, but I in a way can understand that when people still somehow assume that it is possible to do cooperation with the Russian state, that if you stay in good terms with Vladimir Putin and the Russian regime, then you can do some different kinds of cooperation with the different Finno-Ugric peoples in Russia, and obviously that we have now seen that that was not the right way. I mean, it was it was very unsuccessful approach. But from the perspective of, if I think about, obviously I do not represent the state of Finland, and I don't know how like Finnish politicians would think about it. But there were these like various programs, and there was money for Finno-Ugric cooperation. Obviously, there still is like money for those things, but it's impossible to do cooperation with Finno-Ugric peoples in Russia at the moment. And if we think about what kind of role the state of Finland should have, I mean, obviously, I agree that Finland and Estonia should be supportive because they were supportive in the past, and they had this approach that they were supportive through this cooperation with the state, like through the official channels of Russian Federation. And now, because those channels cannot be used, it is kind of difficult to find a way how state of Finland could support those Finno-Ugric minorities who live in Russia at the moment. So this idea that Juku-Kalle Raid had of a joint conference in Estonia, that is a great idea, and I hope that through the channels that the Parliament of Estonia has with the Parliament of Finland, it will be possible to invite Finnish politicians there as well, and also academics from Finland. So this sort of brings me to the academic point of view. So there was, in addition to the cooperation between like NGOs, or if you can speak of NGOs in the Russian context, because there never was a real civil society in Russia, so non-governmental organizations are not non-governmental in Russia in the way they are in, at least in today's Russia, or in Putin's Russia in the way they are in Finland or Estonia or in normal European or Western countries. But anyway, in addition to like cooperation between organizations, there was academic cooperation, so different kinds of conferences, not only these big Finno-Ugric congresses, but all kinds of cooperation between linguists and other scholars in Russia and in the Western countries, and that's also something that's the connections have been, at least on official level, they have been severed, and it's again in Russia the universities and academic institutions are not, they have a very different relationship with the Russian state and administration. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the situation is perfect in Finland or in Hungary, for example. I mean, of course, the state can influence in practice, like how much money they give to the universities and so on. So obviously, universities are not completely independent, but still, you can, in academic events, you can discuss whatever you want without fearing that, like, the prime minister or the president will become sad, and then you don't have to have this kind of self-censorship. But in Russia, it has always been also in academic cooperation something that you can discuss the academic things, but then you have to keep in mind that there are, I mean, well, okay, maybe in academic events you did maybe discuss also the real sort of actual problems or like contemporary problems, but still it's something that it is still a different reality in Russian academia, and it is obviously today you can't. I mean, obviously, in today's Russia, the academic life is even more controlled, but it was also back 10 years ago, for example, it's still was. So it's thinking from the perspective of a researcher, it's also difficult that we don't have those connections, that it's very difficult to, like, there were these conferences where, for example, specialists of language revitalization, specialists of minority language policies could communicate with Russian researchers, and I mean not Russian researchers, that was a very a stupid term, but I mean researchers in like Udmurtia or Karelia, and researchers working with Russian Finno-Ugric languages, and researchers from Finno-Ugric background, so researchers who are themselves Udmurt or Mari or something. So I don't really see a good way for example, Finnish or Estonian scholars now to contribute to the future of the Finno-Ugric peoples in Russia. I mean, I mean, to somehow do concrete work that would help those people in Russia to, on a short term, to make their life better and their language situation easier. So, because like one of the topics of this panel is the language situation, and of course it's connected with the issues of identity and issues of the Finno-Ugric peoples, and not only languages, but it's also something that's very sad that these issues of how the languages are really doing in Russia, that's something, how they are passed on from generation to generation, and what kind of language rights they have. So that's something that's really it's difficult to do in any way influence those things at the moment. But I then agree obviously with the Syreś Boläény's viewpoint that Finland and Estonia should be more supportive of those brave activists who live outside of Russia and who can speak freely and who have the freedom to cultivate their languages and identities in a different way. But yeah, so thinking about how the issues within the Russian Federation at the moment could be changed from the point of view of academia, that's very difficult. But and just one thing that I sort of wanted to point out, that there is like this problem of like this or not problem, but this issue of politicization, and that we really have to be politically active and can't concentrate on this folklore and this like that. So I think that everybody taking part, or most people taking part in this forum, know that in Russia and already in Soviet Union, like in the paper, there were all kinds of rights, language rights provided to Finno-Ugric and other minority languages and peoples, but of course in practice, those people didn't have those rights. So it's also an issue, it's like a difficult issue, that if you say that why you are treating your minority peoples like this, then people can always point out that, well, if you look at the constitution of the Common Republic, we have these and these rights, but that's in practice, people don't get to enjoy them. And I mean, I know that some of these issues probably were addressed in previous talks, or previous panels. I'm afraid I'm sorry that I couldn't listen to all the previous pieces today, but yeah, so to sum up, I agree with the points raised by Syreś Boläeń, and I hope that like Finland and Estonia, through these channels that people like Juku-Kalle have, can try to work out ways to support Finno-Ugric languages and peoples, and there should be like people in Finland should be more aware of these Finno-Ugric minorities outside of Russia, like the Erzyans who are very active, and that there should be more cooperation with them.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Sampsa. Now let's switch back to, I mean, you guys, you keep saying Russia. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that, so I want to switch back to Ingria. And Mitia, it's for you to maybe, to some extent, wrap it up, but really, what is the way of survival for Finno-Ugric people? Okay, say in Russia, but let's concentrate on Ingria, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm really honored to be here. And as majority of you know, Russia is a plain. But there are 3 mountain ranges. There are Caucasus, there are Altai, and there are Urals. Russian authorities, they would like everything to be a plain, as they do in Ukraine, as they've done it in Finland in the Winter War. But I think that these 2 mountain ranges will be the death of Russia. We know with Caucasus how many problems it was in Russia for centuries with all these Caucasus wars. With Altai, which is like all the Turkic-speaking people, and with Urals. That's why I'm not really a fan of speaking as Finno-Ugric, because as an Estonian, for me it's like, oh, well, Estonia is here. And like, I think Hungary, I'm not one to offend Hungarians, but not really, well, it's quite far, and it's more an imperial nation than post-colonial, so it's kind of a little bit different thing, I think, and not really relevant for what we are speaking here. And if you stay with it, we have Uralic nations. So the center is somewhere there in the east, this Ural mountains. which is, yes, not as high as Caucasus or Altai, which were integrated to Russia, well, quite a long time ago, but it is really a spine of Russia. It is where it divides Russia to two parts. And I also think that Uralic people are also a spine of Russia to some extent, because they were integrated to this Russian state very early in Novgorod and in Kiev. Everywhere they were Uralic-speaking people who were, yes, the majority of them were quite quiet. They were fishing. They were in the I know, somewhere in villages, and not so aggressive as, I don't know, Tatars or other people who live in Russia nowadays. But still, they were part of that. And in Russian imperial times, okay, you should become an Orthodox. Then, okay, you are partly Russian, like as some Vepsian old grandmother said that I'm Russian because I'm Orthodox, but she was speaking Vepsian. So at that time, it was okay if you are Orthodox. Then in communist time, well, if you are communist, if you're not against communism, then, well, you may more or less survive, even speak your language. But now in Russia, you are either Russian, either you are dead. There is no other opportunity, unfortunately. That is so. That is how Nazi regime works. So if we would like some peoples there to preserve to be non-Russian, then we shouldn't speak of how Russia will democratize, how blah, 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 Putin will. And Russia is at a state where it's only for Russians. There is no place for other nations. And that's why I think, as Uralic nations, we should unite with other non-Russians in Russia, with Caucasus, with Altai, with Bashkort, with Yakut, with everyone who are against this Russia, because this Russia is against everyone who is non-Russian. And Uralic people, you know, in Russian they call chut, which is like queer and like different. And this is, I think, the main actually part of this decolonial thinking, which is like meeting of Russians meeting with the other. And this is really, it doesn't really depend of not so much of language, because yes, well, there are a lot of languages, but let's assume there are not so many, there are more numerous and less numerous. But if you speak about the whole like Russian plain, there are unfortunately not so many Uralic language speakers left. But it is still very much deep inside of every like Russian culture. This chut, this, I don't know, like Baba Yaga, who is like Sami actually, with this, you know, like this homes, these houses which were built by Sami people actually. So this is very deep everywhere. That's why we should make people in Russia to meet the other, because they deny it. They denied LGBT, they denied, I don't know, feminism or gender issues. But here, as nations, it's the most important part to promote otherness. And we are, as Uralic speaking people, is one of the main other for this big Russian plain. Urals probably are not the highest mountains, but they are still mountains. They are still not plain. And that's why we should promote our culture to not only to dancing and, I don't know, and singing, but also to everybody in Russia, because it's everywhere there, everywhere. Thank you very much. And also in Ingria, that's the same thing. Like there are not so numerous these Votic, Ijorian, and Veps and Ingerman Finn people. Probably yes, but it's their land. And if you want to decolonize Russia, it is the main other with whom we should work, and and whose culture we need to promote for everyone there in Russia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mitia. And I think we really was heard very, like, I don't know, not just alarming, but what's the right word? The presentations were really thought-provoking, and I'm glad that we have different opinions. But we are going out of time, so we have to wrap up. So I would propose to each of you to give just few words, maybe 3-4 sentences on the what political changes are needed for the survival of Finno-Ugric peoples on that territory of northern Eurasia. And I would propose to go like in the opposite direction, so we maybe start with Mitia and then Sampsa and so on.
For me, it's simple. It's the end of Russian Federation. That is the only thing that may save Uralic people in northern Eurasia. And actually, the existence of Russian Federation is also problematic for Estonians and Finns. It's not problematic now, but it may be problematic in a very, very near future. So this is the only way how we may save Uralic people in, everywhere. Probably Hungarians will be safe, but who knows? But like others may have very big problems.
Okay, Sampsa, please.
Well, yes, I mean, it is easy to agree with the previous speaker that in a country where there are no democratic rights and no real, so it's impossible to survive. So I think for all Finno-Ugric people, so mostly who are now living in Russian Federation, but also other minorities who were mentioned in the chat, like the minorities in Finland and Scandinavian countries, and also the Hungarian-speaking minorities in different parts of Europe. So the real democratic institutions, democratic rights, and also rights that possibilities to really use the languages. Those are the sort of, I think, the political conditions for their survival, and obviously in Russian Federation you don't have that, unfortunately.
Okay, Jukka.
Yeah, I think that the European values are the only way to save the Uralic minorities in Russia. I don't say that the European way of development for Russia is realistic. Nobody can say it, but just logically, there's no other way.
Okay,
Juku-Kalle?
Yeah, political changes. If we're talking about Russia, so don't be idiots. Nothing will change there voluntarily. And I think, well, maybe the only way is to speak out loud for the rest of Europe about these small nations, so that maybe it comes closer the style of Russians' behavior. Then it's not only Ukraine. As you mentioned, yes, we are in danger as well. Not only us, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. Every neighborhood country is in danger. And this is, I think, the only main change is to informate all of the Europe. And as I can only repeat, please, organizers of this event, please tell me when you are ready to meet at the Estonian Parliament conference hall. I guarantee you media, because if we do it in some state parliament, I guarantee European media as well. This is not an university, this is political act. And I just want to remind you that when we had still this worldwide Finno-Ugric congresses, our presidents participated there. Estonian, Finnish, even Hungarian. Okay, I'm very skeptic about Hungary right now, but we still can try. And I don't see any questions why, I don't know, ministers of foreign affairs or some kind of minister or presidents shouldn't join with that event when it's held in Estonian parliament. So please, the ball is yours. I'm ready. Thanks.
Thank you. Вот сейчас как раз, Syreś, вам слово, и оно, я бы сказал, будет завершающим. Все. Конечно. Вопрос в том, общий вопрос нашей панели. Какие политические изменения нужны для выживания и развития финно-угорских народов и языков?
Никаких политических решений в России не будет, таких, чтобы помочь сохранить финно-угорские народы и языки. Никаких. Потому что цель России – уничтожить все народы на своей территории, превратить всех в русских. Повлиять на это не может ни Европа, ни Америка. Ни у Европы, ни у Америки нет рычагов влияния никаких на Россию в части, касающейся сохранения языков и народов. Даже в войну, когда погибает каждый день тысячи людей, никакие санкции, никакие решения ничьи не могут повлиять на Россию. Поэтому я уже говорил об этом. Это не смешно и не грустно. Это цинично и подло рассчитывать, что в России возможны политические изменения. Кто-то говорит о том, что, возможно, придут так называемые хорошие русские, и вот потом уже все будет хорошо. Я напомню, что господин Путин в 2000 году, его слова, его выступления дадут фору выступлению любого хорошего русского, который сейчас выступает. То есть Путин тоже был демократом. Помните, да, чем это обернулось? Россия не может существовать в каком-то другом качестве, кроме истории. Небольшой исторический экскурс, совсем коротко. У любой империи, у любой центра, колониального центра есть территория. У русских нет территории. Она была окраиной Орды, сначала Киевской Руси, потом она была окраиной Орды. Народ не смог сформироваться как народ территориально. И сейчас империя – это форма существования русского мира. Она не может существовать ни в какой другой форме. Спасибо большое.